The narrative begins in a violently ransacked living room. Martin and Sheba are found murdered and buried in their own backyard. For the police, the investigation is brief. They lock their sights on Murali, a local auto rickshaw driver who had a public, desperate argument with the victim. Murali needed 75,000 rupees to pay for his sister's wedding, and Martin had abruptly backed out of a promise to provide the money. The prosecution builds a case on proximity and timing. Murali knew the house layout. He had the motive. His screwdriver is the weapon, and he has no alibi. It appears to be a standard, efficient conviction. The gavel comes down, the file is stamped closed, and an innocent man is sent away on a life sentence. To understand how this narrative was manufactured, we have to look toward the police headquarters. Outside these walls, a high-stakes local election is exactly 2 weeks away. The ruling political party is fighting off accusations of incompetence and rising crime. To project control, they demand an immediate, high-profile conviction before the public votes. Facing this pressure, senior police commanders actively suppress alternative leads. When a second suspect with a history of conflict with the victims emerges, the department brass chooses to ignore him. Murali's profile is simply too convenient to abandon. Under the weight of an election deadline, the department converts contradictory evidence into a clean conviction, prioritizing political survival over the accuracy of the investigation. Curious, slightly hushed tone. Weeks later, far from the spotlight of the murder trial, Sub-Inspector Arvind is running a routine night patrol. He pulls over a swerving, erratic car. The driver is visibly intoxicated. When Arvind demands identification, the man hands over a license bearing the name Chandan Men. Following protocol, Arvind searches the vehicle. Underneath the spare tire in the trunk, he finds a can of pepper spray. Right next to it is a hidden smartphone. Acting on instinct, Arvind dials a number to test the device. The phone rings. It is the exact smartphone taken from Martin and Sheba's home on the night of the murder. With one random traffic ticket, the state's supposedly solid murder conviction begins to unravel. Arvind quietly begins an off-the-books investigation into the drunk driver. He runs the name Chandan Mane, but immediately finds a conflict. The ID is stolen. The real Chandan Mane is a retired Navy officer who has spent 18 months fighting a barrage of false criminal charges, losing his job and reputation because a stranger has been using his name. The man Arvind pulled over is a chameleon, shedding identities to fit his next target. He leaves a trail of victims statewide, posing as a holy man selling fake miracles, a recruiter extorting cash for visas, and a widower draining the accounts of lonely women. To commit this crime, he didn't rely on complex planning. He relied on the fact that the system struggles to track a man with no permanent identity. Arvind takes this evidence to his superiors, expecting the case to be reopened. Instead, he meets aggressive resistance. His own brother, a senior officer involved in the original investigation, orders him to bury the findings. The department brass threatens Arvind with suspension if he continues his inquiry. Admitting they locked up an innocent man would ruin the ruling party's election narrative. It would also trigger an internal probe, exposing the department's willingness to bypass procedure for political results. Arvind realizes that to uphold the law, he has to work against the very police force he serves. He officially goes rogue. Tracking the killer's digital footprint, Arvind narrows his location to a hotel in Indore. He drives through the night, preparing for a confrontation. But ultimately, there is no final arrest. Before Arvind even reaches the city limits, the conman wanders onto a dark highway and is killed in a random hit-and-run accident. The man who built a life on stolen names dies without one. His body is sent to the morgue as an unclaimed John Doe. Arvind returns to headquarters with the evidence of the real killer's death. He uses the file to corner his superiors, forcing a stalemate that they cannot ignore. To avoid a public scandal, the department quietly arranges for Murali's release. There is no press conference and no formal apology. The corrupt politicians remain in power. The complicit officers keep their ranks, and the public is never told how the conviction was originally secured. Within this compromised hierarchy, justice remains a quiet, difficult victory, realized only because one officer chose the truth over his own career.